Our top story this afternoon, South Korea's presidential office is sending its high-profile envoys to the North Korean capital of Pyongyang in less than 2 hours from now for a two-day visit. Head of the delegation, National Security Director Jong Eui-yong, moments ago said the trip is to deliver President Moon Jae-in's firm resolution towards denuclearizing the Korean peninsula. Our chief Blue House correspondent Moon Gon-young starts us off.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in is sending his top national security advisor and chief intelligence officer as special envoys to Pyongyang on Monday in a bid to persuade North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to come to the dialogue table with Washington. It's only the latest chapter in an Olympics-driven détente between the two Koreas and part of Mr. Moon's efforts to carry the momentum forward to resolve the nuclear standoff on the Korean peninsula.
The special delegation will take a direct chartered flight to Pyongyang Monday afternoon for a two-day visit, during which they'll hold talks with high-level North Korean officials to discuss ways to establish peace on the Korean peninsula and develop relations between the two Koreas.
The Blue House says the nature of the South Special Delegation is to reciprocate the North Korean leader's decision to send a senior Olympics delegation, including his sister Kim Ya-jung, who delivered Kim's invitation for an inter-Korean summit.
Seoul's special delegation will comprehensively discuss various issues, especially on ways to set the right conditions for U.S.-North Korea talks aimed at denuclearization and improve inter-Korean relations.
A reasonable assumption at this point is that Seoul's special envoy will also carry a written message from South Korean President Moon to the North Kim, and the extensive discussions will include the possibility of a cross-border summit between the two leaders. The 10-member group traveling to Pyongyang comprises key officials in the South Korean government in charge of North Korean affairs. Among them, Vice Unification Minister Chun Hae-sung, who's been at the forefront of the latest inter-Korean contact since January this year. The chief of the National Intelligence Service, Seo Hoon, has been involved in the coordination of the two previous inter-Korean summits in 2000 and 2007, and the NSC chief Chung Eui-yong, who will be leading as Mr. Moon's special envoy, oversees inter-Korean relations, diplomacy, and national defense, acting as a primary contact between the Moon government and the Trump administration. A senior Blue House official says one of the special envoy's key missions will be finding out the North Korean leader's views on various issues and accurately relaying that message to the South Korean president. After the two-day visit to North Korea, the special envoys will travel to the United States to brief officials on their discussions in Pyongyang. Moon Gon-young, Arirang News, The Blue House.
Olympic diplomacy seems to be paying off 1 week after the Winter Games wrapped up, where tensions were visibly high between the U.S. and North Korea during the opening ceremony. The rogue nation now saying it is willing to come to the negotiating table as long as they are treated as equals. Meanwhile, South Korea is sending two envoys to the north this week, trying to keep the momentum moving. Reaction now from White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Do you feel that President Moon is being too soft on North Korea?
The president wants to continue working with South Korea. It's a strong ally. We have no daylight between the two of us. We're going to continue those conversations. Again, the ultimate goal is to denuclearize the peninsula. That's what we're focused on, and we're, excited about any steps moving forward in that process.
And joining me now is retired U.S. Navy Captain Chuck Nash. Always good to have you. And
nice
we'll absolutely jumping right in. Is North Korea looking for some sort of acknowledgement before they agree to talks with the U.S.? And what are the chances that the U.S. would acquiesce?
I think they are, Arthel, by saying that they want to be treated as an equal. What they're really after is for the United States to acknowledge that North Korea is a nuclear power. Well, we've seen the tests, we've monitored that, we've looked at it with our intelligence community. They do have nuclear weapons. So if that's a precondition on their side, okay, fine, you're a nuclear power. The precondition on our side has long been the denuclearization of the peninsula, which means that North Korea would have to start a process whereby they would dismantle their nuclear power program. and nuclear weapons program. And up till this point, they have adamantly refused to do so because they see it as their big insurance policy.
Meanwhile, Captain Nash, what do you make of the tabletop exercise for North Korea? Is the threat of U.S. military action the only thing that will make Kim Jong-un acknowledge or comprehend that the U.S. is serious?
I think he has to take it very seriously because this president, he's got face to save as well as Kim Jong-un has face to save. It's different now. Before, with previous administrations, I think the North Koreans looked at our negotiators as gray pinstripe suit State Department types, and you know, we'll act up, and in the end, they're going to give us some economic assistance, and we'll all go on about our way. Well, now you've got a president that is hands-on, very hands-on, and he's leading this whole operation. And his rhetoric is one where he has face to save, too. So now the North Koreans have a different calculus. As for the tabletop thing, the military, we do these all the time. Some are field exercises, some are, in this case, tabletop exercises. The Army runs about 8 of them a year, and they're all about different contingencies around the world. This one happened to be about North Korea. And as we could have predicted before they even ran the exercise, the outcome was pretty eye-watering and staggering as far as what the damages would be and the losses would be.
Does South Korean President Moon have any weight or real ability to get North Korea to begin to denuclearize?
You know, I think really in the end game he does, because the ultimate goal of all of this ought to be the reunification of the peninsula. It was broken apart in 1945 by the Russians after World War II. And by bringing the peninsula back together, reunifying North and South Korea, that could solve a tremendous amount of these other problems. They would just cease to become issues once the two countries are reunited. And that would be the end of probably at least a 3-step process to get there.
Yeah, but is that easier said than done?
Oh, yeah. No, it would be very difficult because you've got all the external players involved.
Yeah, like
you've got
China.
The Russians. Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Russia. Exactly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, what is North Korea's current real capability of sending a nuclear bomb to the U.S., or what can they do to harm the U.S.?
Well, they've been on a long-term path of developing longer and longer range missiles, working on getting their nuclear weapons to the point where they could actually be deployed on those missiles. So you put A and B together and you have a capability. Now, how far that capability has gone in reality is difficult to tell because it requires that kind of close-up inspection and intelligence, and we just don't have that. We can make assumptions, we can look at missile flight paths and things like that and sort of extrapolate, but getting to know that you really have a full capability is very difficult. That said, they've orbited a satellite. So if they can orbit a satellite, they could orbit a nuclear weapon, and it could just come down, and that would be really bad. Whether they could hit a city in the continental United States or a U.S. state is one thing, but if they could fire off an EMP burst, an electromagnetic pulse burst, that could be worse than an actual impact in its ability to take down the power grid and the slow deaths of millions of people.
And Captain Nash, finally, what about the economic sanctions on ships that are secretly still trading with North Korea? I mean, how does that contribute to the already high tension?
There's a real shell game going on, Arthel. What happens is that a ship, and in this case, we've identified about 28 ships. What they do is they're under a Chinese company, but they're registered in various countries around the world. And they sail, they turn off their AIS device, which is a transponder that gives its position. They'll turn it off and then suddenly wind up near a Russian port. And what they've done in the meantime is they've stopped, picked up North Korean coal, take it to a Russian port, offload it there, turn their beacon back on, and then go somewhere else. And then a little while later, another ship will come to the Russian port, pick up the coal, and go to South Korea. And believe it or not, in this case, South Korea and Japan and others are being duped into buying North Korean coal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Captain Chuck Nash, I have to leave it there. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll bring you back again for more analysis. Thank you, sir.
Look forward to it, Arthel. Thank you.
visit. Head of the delegation, National Security Director Jong Eui-yong, moments ago said the trip is to deliver President Moon Jae-in's firm resolution towards denuclearizing the Korean peninsula. Our chief Blue House correspondent Moon Gon-young starts us off.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in is sending his top national security advisor in chief, who delivered Kim's invitation for an inter-Korean summit.
Seoul's special delegation will comprehensively discuss various issues, especially on ways to set the right conditions for U.S.-North Korea talks aimed at denuclearization and improve inter-Korean relations.
A reasonable assumption at this point is that Seoul's special envoy will also carry a written message.
Our top story this afternoon, South Korea's presidential office is sending its high-profile envoys to the North Korean capital of Pyongyang in less than 2 hours from now for a two-day
Monday afternoon for a two-day visit, during which they'll hold talks with high-level North Korean officials to discuss ways to establish peace on the Korean peninsula and develop relations between the two Koreas.
The Blue House says the nature of the South Special Delegation is to reciprocate the North Korean leader's decision to send a senior Olympics delegation, including his sister Kim Ya-jung, intelligence officer, as special envoys to Pyongyang on Monday, in a bid to persuade North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to come to the dialogue table with Washington. It's only the latest chapter in an Olympics-driven détente between the two Koreas and part of Mr. Moon's efforts to carry the momentum forward to resolve the nuclear standoff on the Korean peninsula.
The special delegation will take a direct chartered flight to Pyongyang.